Hello, folks, and welcome to Ask Evelyn Live, where we answer your questions about compost, recycling, garbage, and other trashy topics. I'm your host, Becca Fong, and I am so glad to bring you this awesome episode this week. It is all about by the numbers, these little beauties that we get a ton of questions from you guys about all the time. We are super excited to release these mean and what you do with them because it is so confusing. Absolutely. So, like this week, like every week, this show is around your questions. We have a really great one that we'll go through with you guys this week. But make sure that you keep them coming. You can hit us on Facebook's, Instagram, Twitter, or you can send your questions to askevelyn@seattle.gov as well. Hey, Pat, what's up?
Hey, Becca, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great. Good to be here. Another week of Ask Evelyn. Happy to join the show. I'm Pat Kaufman. I do the recycling of commercial sites in Seattle, so business help, green business program. So happy to be here.
All right, Pat, we are super excited about this episode, right? Like we get this question all the time. So this is by the numbers, people. We have talked about this before on the show, but we really wanted to get into it this week. And so we have a really great question that actually came to us last fall from one of you guys through our Ask Evelyn email inbox, but we wanted to bring it back and we didn't get to share it on the show. So we're going to share it now so we can get into this. All right, Pat.
A lot of good questions. Okay, here we go. The question is from Jessica. She writes, "Hi, Evelyn. I was hoping for a breakdown of what plastic is and isn't accepted. From my understanding, only plastic number 1 and number 2 are actually recycled and everything else is thrown away. Also, the black containers are usually thrown out because the laser on the auto sorting system can't distinguish between black coloring and contaminants. Is that correct? I just want to make sure what I'm putting in the blue cart is actually getting recycled. And all of this in advance. Thank you very much. Super helpful. Appreciate it." Okay. Quick answer, right. Becca? Is there such a thing as a quick answer?
So the quick answer for this is forget the numbers. Like just erase all the numbers from your mind. Completely let them go. No way. And what we do is we do it by size, which you guys have heard us talk about, which is anything over 3 inches, and shape. So we talk a lot about bottles, jugs, tubs, and larger containers. So that's your short answer. Forget the numbers, shape, and size. And so this is
Go ahead.
So this is the great part about it is that everyone's like, okay, that's a great quick answer, right? But what do those freaking numbers mean? Oh my goodness. Like I can't stop staring at them at the bottom and I need to write to you. And we hear you. They're super frustrating. So we're going to break down all of the numbers. There's numbers 1 all the way through 7. And Pat and I are going to go back and forth and kind of break it down for you.
Right. So before we jump into the numbers, just remember, folks, as we've been saying for years, it's empty, clean, and dry. It's rigid plastic. So quick answer, as long as you're empty, clean, and dry, you're on the right path. Don't worry about the numbers, rigid plastic, hard plastic. So that's the deal, yeah. So should we jump in 1 through 7?
Let's do it.
Start.
So let's start with number 1.
All right, what do you got?
So number 1, this is kind of hard to see. I think Pat may have a better example. This is number 1, PET. So actually really quickly, this little chasing arrow sign is also called the Mobius symbol or the chasing arrows. And so that is what is around each of these numbers. And
the Mobius loop.
The Mobius loop. And what these numbers mean is they talk about the different resin information codes. So the resin is the type of plastic that the material is made out of. And so that's information for the plastics manufacturing industry, nothing to do with recycling. So number 1.
It was an attempt, back in the day, it started back in the 80s, but it was an attempt to provide to the recycling industry, to consumers, to everyone, like a little bit of information about what is this plastic. And it has been helpful in some communities who go by the numbers. It's helpful. But for us, again, we focus on rigid plastic, empty, clean, and dry. So it's not really helpful for us. It creates more questions and challenging, situations than it's helpful. So,
like so many things from the 80s, Pat, great ideas, just more confusion.
Right.
So
I love the 80s though. Okay. So number 1.
Number 1, this is PET. So this, you'll see both Pat and I have these clear, rigid containers, right? Mine's a little thicker than Pat's is. Mine's a juice bottle. What's yours, Pat?
It's just a little container. We got strawberries and berries in, mixed berries.
Perfect. So the way you know that it's PET is it's clear. That's the main
Yeah.
thing. It's a clear, rigid plastic. That's a term you'll hear, rigid. So both of these, thumbs up, man. These go in your recycling. These are the right shape. They're rigid. They're bigger than 3 inches. Pat's amazingly got his Nutella thing clean. I'm not sure how.
Well, you just gotta let it soak. Just fill it with warm water, let it sit, and then stir it, you know. Anyway, yeah.
Okay.
It's a little foggy. It's not as clear as other containers. A little something there, but it's definitely clean enough.
Definitely. So rigid plastic, larger than 3 inches.
Right.
These are your number one PETs. These are a super valuable commodity. We sort them into just this, and those have been recycled into things for the whole time the recycling.
Oh yeah, fleece, carpeting, insulation, all kinds of materials. There's a huge market for PET plastics.
Totally.
It's a very, very strong market for that.
Absolutely.
HDPE, number 2. What do you got?
Hold on, Pat. One quick thing is that we had a question about the caps, right? So those are made out of something different. This is a sortation thing. These are made out of number 5, which we'll get to in a second. But if you put it back on here, like I've got on mine and Pat's got on his, these are good to go. The way that these plastic bottles are recycled, the processor that they go to, they will separate them. Putting the cap back on allows it to get sorted. So really good question.
Chip it all up and make it into little flakes, smaller bits, and then there's a sink float system. So all the one kind of plastic sinks to the bottom of the vat, the other stuff floats, they're able to separate it. Things like that are pretty cool in the plastic recycling industry. They figured out how to do stuff. So that's when they finally said, we'll take the caps, because they were always getting the little ring anyway, Right. they always had to deal with that. So they said, we'll take the caps as well. And they lightweight the bottles so much, the cap becomes a larger and larger percentage of the overall package over time. So yeah.
All right. Number 2. I'm like, number 2 is what I have as my example. It is HDPE, high density polyethylene. Yes. This is really hard to see. There you go. You might be able to see that. So this is your opaque plastics. Hard. This is my Claritin bottle, my best friend right now during allergy season. And Pat, what do you got? You got a rigid container.
I got rigid, number 2, HDPE plastic. But it's a toxic chemical type material. So we say no to these. These are not recyclable. Even though it's rigid, you can't really get it clean. And we don't want you to try and clean that one.
No.
So we say no to those types of things. And we highlight it on the garbage panel of the Where Does It Go guide. So you see a little motor oil there.
Totally. And so this, it's an opaque plastic. Milk cartons or milk jugs are often what we talk about as high density polyethylene. Super highly recyclable, similar to PET. We separate those out into their own bale.
Most detergent bottles, your laundry soaps and your different cleaners and things that come in different color spectrum. They'll sort at the sorting center. The natural, they call it, the milk jug is natural HDPE. Then there's color HDPE, which is all those different, Cheer and All and all those fun little detergent brand names.
Totally. Yeah. Super recyclable. But again, that's a bottle or a jug. And so those are totally recyclable. And I think we have a really good, we're going to just keep hammering this home right there. But,
that's right. That's the good stuff. So here's the problem now.
There we go.
There's number 2, HDPE. Is it coming through? Yeah. Right there, number 2, HDPE. But the problem is, it's a bag. It's not rigid plastic, so we don't want it. This, of course, is accepted in your take-back programs to the store, like where there is a plasticfilmrecycling.org. You can look it up, find the store that's participating in your area, and you can take your mixed plastic film collection, bag it all up, tie it off, and put it in their collection bin at the store. But this is not something that we want in the cart. So the chasing arrows, and this is often the number that you'll see on those little air pillows you get from online orders. A lot of the packing, the air packing stuff is HDPE, or LDPE, but basically that film plastic is not accepted in the blue cart.
Nope. It just wraps around the machinery and is a mess. All right, number 3. I'm gonna have to go off camera for a quick second.
3 is like, I got a piece as well. So PVC.
Everybody's favorite, PVC.
Oh.
So
it works great as a sprinkler pipe, but it's not recyclable in our program.
Not at all.
The thing is, though, it's not food grade packaging. So our customers, the consumers, the people who are using the blue card at home, they're not gonna find PVC packaging commonly.
Right.
that is going to be an item that they will be looking to find whether it goes in the container. If you have a food or beverage or soap product that's in a rigid plastic container and it's PVC, you can recycle it. I mean, it's just that it's fallen into the category. It's just that there are not very many products out there at all.
Not very many.
That use PVC.
HDPE is a more robust market for bottles and jugs. So no on that. But you might find it with a chasing arrow symbol. All right, number 4, which is what I started our show with. So this one is number 4. Yeah. So this is low density polyethylene.
Right.
Number 4.
It's bags.
And
it's always bags. It's a bread bag. Basically, that's the most common thing. Yep. Isn't that what you have there? Is a bread bag? Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Totally. Nice.
So what is terrible about this is look at what this says. I know it's backwards, but it says this package is recyclable. I was talking to my kid earlier, and she was just like, "This is not recyclable." I was like, "That's right. This is not recyclable." She's like, "Reusable." I was like, "That's true." But
that's true.
This is another classic reason, just like the one you showed with the plastic air pillows and the film, is that even though it has these chasing arrows, we do accept things that are made out of low density polyethylene. Not this. Not that
one. Yeah, so it's a bag. It's covered in our garbage panel. It's a form of a plastic bag, or a food bag, which we do not want in the recycle bin. Again, that bag does fit into the category of the plastic film recycling. That's a take back model program. That's not a blue cart model.
Nope.
So those are, if you're going to do that, you will want to take your bread bag and empty it out over the compost bin and shake all your crumbs out, and then you're good to go, because empty, clean, and dry is also a guideline for the plastic film collection effort.
Absolutely.
All right.
Number 5. I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe not.
Nice.
Very
I see that.
So this is number 5. This is polypropylene.
Right.
And this is like a cream cheese container. We take these. These are the tubs, because again, we're looking at the shape of this. These are great, but lots of things are made out of polypropylene. There are those cookie trays can be made out of that.
Yeah, polypropylene, I think they're finding that it's more affordable resin for the manufacturers of containers. So it's getting greater market share in the container packaging kind of space. So polypropylene is becoming more common. It's totally recyclable. It's traditionally number 1 and number 2. When you talk about the numbers, those are the ones that bring, a steady stream of revenue for the recycle centers. Number 5 is getting into that space too. It's actually it's a lot of it, and it's clean. People are doing a good job.
And I think, Jessica, if you happen to be watching this show, that was why you wrote to us, right? You had that knowledge that 1s and 2s, those are generally accepted because they're easy to sort and they make up a large portion of the market. I think that's a really important point you just made. It's like as more of that material ends up in our recycling stream, the markets grow for them, and we can sort those things out. So number 5. Okay, number 6 is my favorite, because just because we don't take it.
No, so what's funny is I will read people online talk about polystyrene and they apply it to foam. Yeah, foam. That's EPS. This is EPS.
I do actually have a little tray that is.
Yeah, I have one here too. I'm just trying to.
Oh, there you go. I
have polystyrene here too.
Totally.
PS6.
Yep.
So rigid plastic, okay. Foam, not okay. So that's where polystyrene is really a curveball for folks, because
totally
a lot of times even a foam container that's PS, that's made from polystyrene, it's actually EPS, expanded polystyrene.
Oh, right.
And sometimes the manufacturers will just have the PS because that's what the resin is. The fact that it's expanded is a different deal. So some say EPS, some say PS. They all say 6 with the chasing arrow. So it's not helpful. It is a challenge. Again, you get a lot of home delivery products in PS, whether it's rigid or foam. We accept rigid plastic, empty, clean, and dry. So plant pots are okay.
And, we've got a really great service that is free to SBU customers, where we will pick this business up at your house for free. Special item pickup for foam. We'll take up to 2 bags of it. So it's a really, really great service. And we take this down to Styrocycle. And I know we've got a clip on our playlist where Pat talks about kind of the origin of that business, which is really super fun. But yeah, it is recyclable in some formats, but not in our blue card.
Yeah.
Not at all. So you got some of this.
you've got drop-off options for the plastic film category,
Yep.
and you've got free pickup options for your foam, expanded
Right.
polystyrene options. And the other thing about foam that I'll mention, just jumping ahead a little bit here,
Yeah.
is that coming soon, I'm not sure the dates, I should know them, but those styrofoam, which is a brand name, but the expanded polystyrene foam coolers are going to be banned in our state coming soon,
Right.
because, you know, it's not recyclable in normal forms, and so it has been eliminated. Food packaging as well, we banned statewide. We, of course, had our foam ban in Seattle for many years now,
For a long time.
but coming soon statewide, the foam ban will also include things like coolers and packing peanuts and things like that.
Totally. So we got a question from Kate. She wants to know about the more flexible plant pots. So Kate, I'm trying to think if it's like the 1 gallon pots that you're thinking of. For those, they are rigid enough that those, if they are clean and empty and dry, those can go into your carts. Generally, Pat and I use the rule, like the really cheap, like cookie tray kind of things where it's kind of brittle. Those are out. Those just are really low grade plastic that the recyclers don't want. But if it's those more rigid, like 1 and 5 gallon round cylindrical pots, good to go. Those are great.
And this size plant pot is commonly that super thin. It kind of has like a latticey texture to it. It's very crinkly, and you could crunch it up into a ball in your hand probably. This is a rigid one. This one's strong enough. So it's a fine line, and it's tough. We know the flimsy stuff doesn't bring a lot of value in the recycle center, and it's harder to sort because it tends to flip around a little bit. Whereas the heavier ones, they kind of hold their ground on the conveyor belt, and they're easier to sort. So those are some of the, as Becca has reminded us, recyclability has to do with sortability as well as commodity markets. So sortability is part of the picture. For us to do a commingled recycle program, we have to be able to sort it efficiently.
Yeah. And so those little 6-packs too, Kate, those are toast. Yeah. They're too brittle and thin. There's not enough kind of like oomph to the plastic. It's kind of a cheap plastic. So we don't take those.
I would say if you nested 3 or 4 of them together, then maybe you could, but then they might fall apart, and then it's a problem. So maybe I shouldn't go there. But anyway, it's one of those things. Shall we move on to 7?
Yes. So number 7 is one of my favorites, and we talked about this really recently on a show. We had a really great question about the number 7, and so I have 3 examples of number 7.
Okay, let's see them.
So my first one, this was the one that we got a question about a couple of weeks ago. So number 7.
I think I have the same product.
I know, we totally do. It's the other.
Right.
And so what that means is it's everything else, right? So this is not really super helpful as far as like, even for the plastics industry, they just know that this is the extra stuff. So like this is like a multi-layered flexible packaging. This is trash, right? Yeah. This is just no good.
Yeah. Or as your daughter would say, it's reusable.
It's reusable.
In some manner. I mean, they come with like a Velcro top now.
Oh, totally.
It's really fun. You know?
Oh, yeah. We use them as like picnic bags and stuff like that. Like instead of Ziploc bags, we'll put sandwiches in them. But, you know, that's us. The other one that we have that we showed last time is when we talked about it's compostable. So polylactic acid, PLA, which is totally compostable. Like this says right here. This is the main word right here. Forget this business. You're looking for this. And that, Pat, you were talking to me about this just a little bit earlier, right?
Well, it's like a decision tree. I mean, as soon as you see the word compostable, you're good. You see the word compostable, green card. Okay? Green card. But when you see 7 PLA, 7 other, 7 CPLA, that's where it's like, okay, again, the numbers are not what we're going by. Looking for the word compostable for compostable. And then in number 7, if it's rigid plastic and it's other, then it's accepted in our program. We got to stick to our guidelines.
Totally. Which brings me to, this is my Nalgene bottle, which is a number 7. This is a rigid bottle. I mean, I'm going to keep using this baby, but you know, this actually would be acceptable in our recycle program. So we've got 3 number 7s. This one, recycle. This one, compost.
Right. This one, garbage.
Trash.
And I think the point that people might be thinking, well, wait a second, what about those rigid number 7s? It's just like any other rigid item. We're sending our mixed rigid materials to a plastic sorting facility now. Of course, our local MRF, our local recycle center, material recovery facility, the MRF, they will try and pull off the number ones and twos because they will try and broker that commodity for their own self. But everything else that's mixed rigid, like all the other rigid plastics, get baled together and sent to a secondary sorting facility where they use the optical sorters and lasers and robots and all that stuff to try and get through all that mix to break it into the commodities and then find the correct markets for that. The number 7 market, I will admit, not a strong market, may not be a very firm market for that, but it's being managed responsibly. I can say that. So it's not like it's just being discarded or burned or something. It's actually going to the recycle center and they're finding a market for it.
So yeah, I mean, it's really good thing. And all that being said, this is kind of a longer show, but we really wanted to commit some time to this because we know you guys really want to know what's going on with these numbers. Yeah. And just to recap really quickly, so forget the numbers, erase them from your mind. And we're going to go by shape, right? So we want bottles, jugs, tubs, containers. That's why we format the Where Does It Go flyer just like this. We want you to look at the shapes of it and we will take it from there because the numbers are not about recyclability. It is about the resin that the plastic is made out of. And that's kind of an industry deal. That's not about a recyclability deal. The other thing that's really cool, Pat, was we were talking about Senate Bill 5022 that just passed, which has a lot of really great stuff in it. But you were telling me specifically about the numbers and this bill.
Yeah, one of the elements to the last legislative session was that many years ago, they passed a law in Washington that required manufacturers to put these numbers on all the products, which was an attempt to guide things along, but it's sort of misguided because it becomes more of a source of confusion than help. So it is now the case in our state that it is no longer the requirement that manufacturers add those symbols to packaging. So they might actually start to fade from, packaging and products and things, but it's also probably still required in other states. So I'm not really sure that just because Washington changed the rules here doesn't mean it's going to change things too quickly, but we're heading the right direction. And the point that we want to focus on is that it's all about being empty, clean, and dry way more than anything else.
Yeah. Empty, clean, and dry, and look at the shapes, people. So, and we've got links to Senate Bill 5022, our Where Does It Go flyer, a really great article that breaks down, because Senate Bill 5022 has a ton of other really fantastic stuff that I know all of you who are watching this show who are total waste nerds will be really excited to hear about that are coming down the pike. It was signed into law May 17th, which is fantastic, but it takes a while for these things to go into effect. But there's really great stuff, recycled content, all of these different things. So, but Jessica, thank you so much for your question. And I really hope you guys, this was a little bit of a longer show, but I really hope you guys got some great information, and we'll definitely be kind of consolidating a little bit to create some kind of, shorter clips and some different guides for you guys. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much. We are so glad to hear from you always. And with that, we will see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, Wednesdays, 1:30. And with that, I'm Becca Fong. And remember, life's simpler with less stuff.
And I'm Pat Kaufman. Remember to recycle right. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Thank you guys all for tuning in.